Hello, this is David, and today I will be doing the INTC2030. It's the Lab3. We'll be installing a DHCP server on a Windows server core, which is server 2008. And what we'll be doing, we'll be adding this server core to a domain, and then we're going to install DHCP on the server core, and we'll be setting its address to 192.168.1.103 as a static IP. We're going to be setting our DHCP to auto start, and then we'll be adding scope, an IP range of 192.168.1.1, and we'll be going to 1.224 on the same network. And then we're going to be adding an exclusion, which will not hand out these IPs. That way we can hand out these IPs static as a static IP, or we could set up a reservation, and I'll be setting up a reservation for one of these IPs. And this is the way you want to set your scope IP range up. You want to assign the entire network that you're going to be using, and then turn around and add your exceptions or exclusion and reservations to it. And then the next thing I'll be doing, I'll be adding the option 003, and that is set up for the gateway. And the gateway I'm going to make 192.168.1.1, and then I'll be adding a option 006, and that is for our DNS server, and our DNS server is on our domain controller, which is 192.168.1.100. Then we're going to be activating our DHCP server, and then we're going to authorize it in our Active Directory, and our Active Directory is on our domain controller. And then we're going to be testing this server, and I'm going to be using our W2K801 and our 802 servers. And the 801 I'm going to let a dynamic IPB address serve to, and on the 802 I'm going to set up a reservation by the MAC address. And right now I'd like to show you the configuration I've got. I've just installed the server core DHCP. Let me get it signed on here. And we're signing on as administrator local right now because it doesn't have anything at all on it. And what I did here to show you the information on this server core, how it's setting right now, I've done a system info. And you can see the host name is the host name that was assigned right after the install. And it's a member of the domain work group, so it hadn't joined the domain. And the IP has the 192.168.181.132. So now I'm going to show you the instructor server. It is our domain controller. Its IP address is 192.168.1.100. It is our domain controller, and it is our Active Directory controller, and it also has it is running our DNS server. Come on down here. See, there's the Active Directory domain service and the DNS service. My next server is my W2K801, and as you see here, I've already joined the domain and have static IPs on it right now. We'll be changing that later in this tutorial, and it is set in at 1.101. Here's our DNS server, which is the instructor 01, our domain server. It's where our DNS server is also located. And if we go on over here to our 802, It's a member of the domain, and right now it's sitting with the address of 1.102. Sort of make note of this MAC address on this adapter here. It's 000 Charlie 29822848. We'll be using that MAC address to actually assign the IP address in our after we get our DHCP server set up on the server core. So let's go over here to our server core and we're going to get started. So the first thing, let me clear this screen here. The first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving our server core name of Core 01, and to do this you do a netdom. But before we do this, and let's see, you do a host name, and it will actually give you the Windows server name here, which is that WIN dash. So let's go ahead and rename it here, and it'll ask us if we want to proceed, and it'll tell us that must be restarted before it can change its name. So I'm going to do a shutdown here, and I'll be doing a -R for restart, and it'll give us a message, and we'll say OK to it, and we'll let our server core shut down and restart. Our server core is rebooted there, and before we continue, let's check and make sure it did change. And also, I said earlier, this is how you see what the name is before you change it. And so right now it's Core 01, but you can use the host name command, or you can use the sysinfo to get you the same information. But I like using the host name because then you can go ahead and rename your computer and actually see your old name. Next thing we want to do is set the IP for this core, server core, and we're going to be setting it to 192.168.1.103. And so first thing we need to do is a netsh, and we'll get a prompt here, and then we want to go to the interface. And the interface we want to go to, we want to use the IP version 4 card. And now, paste this in there. And now will be set address name equal double quote local area connection double quote. Source is equal static address equals our 192.168.1.103 with a mask is equal 255.255.255.0, and I'll hit enter. Okay, let's may exit out of this, and let's see if it's changed our IP, and it has changed our IP. Okay, now let me clear the screen here. Next thing we want to do, we want to join the domain, and to do that we do a netdom join, and the name of the computer, which is Core 01 /domain www.lucernpublishing.com, that's our domain, space /userd administrator space /password d and colon and then our password. So let's see if this will join our domain. First thing we need to do, we need to set our DNS server. We can't join the domain if we can't find the DNS. So let me set that, the DNS address, server address. And to set the DNS server address, we just use the same NetSH interface, IP version 4, add DNS server, name of our adapter, name is equal local area connection, and then our address of our DNS server, which is 192.168.1.100. Let's see if this will set our DNS. Now if we do an IP config all, we should see our DNS address in there for our server. And you can tell we did. Now let's clear the screen here. CLS. Now let's back up a couple commands. Now let's see if we can do the netdom and join the domain. And I use the netdom join the computer name that we're on, server core here, and this core 01 /domain www.lucentpublishing.com space /user D administrator, will be signed on as administrator, and then /password D and then our password for administrator. And so we'll hit enter here and see if we can join the domain. And it's done completely, so let's do an IP config all again, make sure that it did join. And let's see here. Let me do a system info, not a system info, but a system info. INFO, and we'll make sure it's joining. In fact, we'll ping it here just as soon as we get through displaying it. It looks like we're on the domain. Okay, showing right here the domain. And let's see if we can ping it. And it was whoops. Need to turn my numeric on. 1.100 was our domain controller. Try that again. Okay, we can reach our domain controller. While we're here, we'll see if we can reach those other two, that 801 and 802 servers. And there's the 801. And let's see if we can hit our 802. Yep, it seems like everything's working correctly there.